That's what that is. Practice. Those are signs the need to keep a folder of all the good things they've done in their careers, all of these things they need it. People acting out of self-interest is a sign that they're taking time and energy out of their day away from doing their job in order to protect themselves from their own leaders. That's what that is. Those are signs of bad leadership. We're now working together to compete. All of these things are people acting out of self-interest. That's what politics and gossip is. I'll tell you one quick story. It's a true story. Right? In well-led organizations, you tend to find very little politics and very little gossip. We're Four Seasons in Las Vegas. At that level. We're now working together to compete and the service there is really great. I'll tell you one quick story. It's a true story because of the people who work there. And I had an experience with I was staying a young man by the name of Noah. Four Seasons in Las Vegas. Which is a coffee shop that they have just there in the lobby. And the service there and I was buying a cup of coffee, and the reason it's such a great hotel is because of the people who work there. Engaging. And I had an experience. I think I gave 100% a young man by the name of my $5 coffee. I know as a barista. Tip. I mean, this guy was great. Coffee shop that they have just there in the lobby. To him. He was a joy, and I asked him, "Do you like charming and funny?" He said to me, "I love my job without skipping." And I think I gave a 100% tip. I think what is it? My $5 coffee. I think I gave a $5 tip. I mean, this guy was your job. I loved talking to him. He was a joy, and I asked him throughout the day. Managers will walk past and ask how I'm doing, and I asked, "What is it that?" He said, "Not just my manager doing." Any manager that you love your job. He says, "I feel supported here." He says, "Quote, again, without skipping a beat." He says, throughout the day, then managers will walk past and ask and then he says to me, if there's anything I also work. He said, not just my manager, Caesar's Palace. Any manager. Wow. And he says, I feel supported here. He says, quote, I can be myself and catch us if we do something wrong. Then he says, when I go to work at Caesar's Palace, I keep my head just under the radar. And then he says to me, because I don't want to get in trouble. I also work. He says, I just want to get through the day and make a paycheck. And there, the managers go around to make sure that we're doing everything right. The experience that I have at the Four Seasons will be diametrically. He says, when I go to work at Caesar's Palace, I keep my head just under the radar because I don't want to get in trouble. Not because of Noah, I just want to get through the day and make a paycheck. And the joke is, if I were to go talk to the managers over it, the experience that I have at the Four Seasons, they'll say, but you don't understand, we cannot get good work out of our people. Look, no matter how hard we try and how hard we push them, not because of Noah, they just don't. So we either have to replace them or push them harder. No, the joke is, if I were to go respond to the environments we're in, get the environment right, you get the right behavior, get the environment you don't understand, you get the wrong behavior. Good work out of our people. If that is what has happened, look, no matter how hard we try and how hard we push them, they just don't. So we either have to replace them or push them harder. No, we respond to the environments we're in, get the environment right, you get the right behavior, get the environment wrong, you get the wrong behavior. If that is what has happened, and astonishingly, it is because of leadership. I'm embarrassed that I have a career. I talk about things like trust and cooperation. Why is there demand for my work? But the fact that there is, I'll take it as an opportunity. But what's really and astonishing abominable is that I'm embarrassed that I have a career. A new idea. I talk about things like trust and cooperation. There are books galore, and speeches galore, and articles galore about what leadership is. But the fact that there is, I'll take it as an opportunity. We all kind of say the same thing from different angles. You can pick your flavor, whichever message resonates most with you. This is not and yet people don't do it. Like, what's the hang-up? Books galore and speeches galore and articles galore, which is about what leadership is. We all kind of say the same thing from a different angle. So you can pick your flavor, whichever message resonates most with you. And yet people don't do it. I know some spectacular leaders who don't have big Steve Jobsian visions, which is not, what are the, and I know some spectacular leaders who really don't have a lot of charisma. They kind of just shuffle around, and you're like, that's the guy. I know some spectacular leaders who don't have big Steve Jobsian visions. People will give blood, sweat, and tears for these people. And I know some spectacular leaders who really don't have a lot of charisma. They kind of just must shuffle around, and you're like, that's the guy. That's the guy, right? It is hard to stand and they're spectacular, and people will give blood, sweat, and tears for these people. Pressure. The one thing I am comfortable saying to an external constituency effective leaders must to do something is courage for their short-term gain. Because it is to do the right thing for your people. It is hard to stand up against. Thankless. It is lonely. Outside pressure. It is hard to stand up. Sometimes you get fired. Sometimes you get in trouble. Sometimes you'll lose your job, and the next guy will get all the credit. To do the right thing. It's all true. People. It is hard. And the courage to do the right thing in the face of overwhelming pressure. Sometimes only the best leaders get fired. Sometimes you get in trouble. Sometimes you'll lose your job, and the next guy will get all the credit. Courage is all true. Deep internal fortitude. And the courage to do the right thing in the face of overwhelming it just doesn't exist. Courage is external. Only the best leaders. Our courage comes from the support we feel. And here's the folly. In other words, when you feel that someone has your back.
Dig down deep and find the courage.
When you know
doesn't exist.
that the day that you
Courage is
admit you can't do it, someone will be there.
Our courage
and say,
comes from the support we feel from others.
That's what gives you the courage
when
someone, when you feel,
it's not going off to an ashram by yourself somewhere for 4 weeks
when
and
you
coming back and finding
you
your courage.
know
It's not what happens.
that the
It's
day
the
that
relationships
you admit
that we
you can't
foster,
do it,
it's the
someone
people
will
around
be
us
there
who
and
love
say,
us and care about us and believe in us. And
can
when
do
we
this.
have those relationships,
That's what gives you the courage
we
to
will
do the
find the
difficult
courage to do
thing.
the right thing. It's not going off to an ashram by
with
yourself
courage,
somewhere
that
for
in
4 weeks and
turn
coming back and
will
finding your courage.
inspire
It's not
those
what
in your
happens.
organization
It's the
to
relationships
also
that
act
we
with
foster.
courage.
It's
In
the
other
people
words,
around us
it's
who
still an
love us
external
and
thing.
care about
That's
us
what
and believe in
inspiration
us.
is,
And
right?
when
I'm
we
inspired
have
to
those
follow your
relationships,
example.
we will find the courage to do the right thing.
Those
And
relationships,
when you act with courage, that in turn will inspire those in your organization to also act with courage. In other words, it's still an external thing. That's what inspiration is, right? I'm inspired to follow your example.
But they'll often save your life.
But
they'll save you
those
from
relationships
they'll save you from
that we
giving up.
foster
They'll save
over
you
the course of a lifetime.
Any
Matter
not
of,
only
make us
negative feelings about your own
capabilities, your own
and
future.
hope we can be.
When someone just says,
they'll often
"I love
save
you."
your life. They'll
And
save you
I
from
will follow
depression.
you no
They'll
matter
save
what.
you from
Why do you, I want to
giving
talk
up.
about that for a
They'll
second.
save
Why
you
do you
from
think
any
that something
matter
so
of,
innate, so deeply
negative
ingrained
feelings
in us
about your own
as
capabilities, your
love
own future
is so,
when
like
someone just says, "I love you."
yesterday, I can't believe this is true. This is
And I
actually
will
true. I'm
follow
not
you no
making this
matter
up.
what.
Just
so,
yesterday,
I
this
wanna
means
talk
something to
about
you
that for a
guys. I
second.
looked
Why do you
Ron Penn
think
in his eyes and I
that
said, I
something
love you.
so innate, so
And I said it
deeply
like ingrained in us
100%
as my business
love
partner. I said it
is
100%
so, like,
sincerely. It was just one of those
yesterday, I
moments
can't believe
where
this is true. This is actually true.
you
I'm not
wanna
making this up. You
just
wanna
yesterday, this
connect
means
and
something to you
remember.
guys.
But
I
that's so
looked
weird.
Ron
Like
Penn in
I don't
his
do
eyes
that
and I said,
often.
I love you. And I said it like
It's so interesting that
I
it
said it
becomes
100% sincerely. It was
Sure.
just one of those
It's the best way to say
moments
it because,
where,
like, at home with my wife,
you
it's so
wanna-
easy, and I love to
you
embody it, and I love to
connect
feel
and
it, and it makes
remember.
me
But
feel
that's so
awesome.
weird. Like,
but then
I
I
don't
come
do
into
that
the
often.
office, and there's something about the context.
It's
that
so
makes it
interesting
weird.
that it
Yes.
becomes
Two
out of
perspectives.
context.
Sure.
Maybe
One
is the best
is,
way to say it
this
because,
is what
like, at
vulnerability
home
is,
with my
right?
wife, it's so easy, and I
being
love to
vulnerable
embody it, and I
doesn't
love to
mean
feel it, and it makes me
crying.
feel awesome.
Being
But then I come
vulnerable
into the
means
office, and
willing
there's
to admit
something about
you
the
made a mistake.
context
Being
that
vulnerable
makes it
is the
weird.
willingness to say,
Yes.
"I need help."
Two perspectives. One is
Being
this is
vulnerable
what vulnerability
is the
is,
willingness
right?
to express the feelings
being
you have
vulnerable
towards
doesn't
someone.
mean
crying.
without fear
Being
what other people
vulnerable
may think
means willing to admit
of you
made a mistake.
by making
Being
that
vulnerable
expression.
is the willingness to say,
and
"I need help."
most people, especially
Being
if they don't have a
vulnerable
trusting
is the
environment
willingness
or a
to
strong
express the feelings you
corporate
have
culture,
towards
most
someone.
people don't want to feel vulnerable.
Without
it's
fear
dangerous
of what
to
other
feel
people may
vulnerable.
think.
If you admit you made a mistake or
Of
you don't know
you
what you're doing, you've
by-
been
by
promoted
making that
into a
expression.
job that you have no clue
and most
or no business
people,
being in that
especially
job,
if they don't have a trusting
lying,
environment
hiding,
or a
and faking
strong
is
corporate
a
culture,
much better
most
option.
people don't want to feel
right?
vulnerable.
It's dangerous to feel
But for the
vulnerable.
fact that it's
If
more
you admit you made
stressful
a
and
mistake
ultimately
you
the
don't know what
results
you're
will
doing, you've been
falter,
promoted into
right?
a job that
It's
you have no clue
counterintuitive.
or
But
no
that's what
business
a
being in
strong
that
environment
job.
means. It means I can
Lying,
be
hiding, and
vulnerable. So
faking
the fact
is
that you can
a much
say
better
that
option.
out loud, right?
Means that there's a loving,
But
trusting
for the fact that it's more
culture
stressful
here,
and ultimately
that is
the results
okay
will
with you
falter,
being
right?
vulnerable.
Nobody's
it's
thinking, "Oh my God!"
But that's what a
company's
strong environment
going
means. It means
downhill.
I
This
can
guy's
be
nuts.
vulnerable.
He's-
so the fact that you can say that out
blubbering
loud
all over the place
means
you know?
that there's
that's
a
not what
loving,
people are thinking. I
trusting
mean, some people are probably
culture
thinking
here that is okay with you. Being
But
vulnerable.
generally, that's not what
Nobody's
people are
thinking.
thinking.
Oh
If
my
anything,
God,
people are going,
This
"Cool."
company's
And that then
going
inspires
downhill.
them.
This guy's nuts. He's
that they
he's
can also
blubbering
express
all over the
vulnerability.
place.
You
Like
know?
admitted
That's
mistake.
not what people are thinking. I mean, some people are probably thinking that. But
they wanna
generally,
offer
that's not
help
what
to
people are
someone
thinking.
and
If
not feel
anything,
that
people are
either.
going, "Cool."
And that
so
then
that's
inspires
one
them
perspective. The other reason why
feel
stuff
they can
that
also
I talk
express
about or
vulnerability,
that you're
like
talking
admitted
about now
mistake,
is so
like
often
say they
screwed
ignored,
up. Like say they need help. But say
is just because it's hard to measure.
They want to offer help to someone.
know,
and
how do you
not
measure
feel that either?
leadership?
So that's
How do you
one
measure?
perspective.
One of my
The other
How do you measure
reason why
trust?
stuff that I talk
they
about
lack
or
good
that
metrics.
you're talking
It's
about
very
now
easy to measure.
so often ignored
revenues
and profits
is
and
just
market
'cause it's
share.
hard to measure.
So let's focus on those
You know,
things because
how
I
do you
can
measure
I can like pull a lever
leadership?
here and see what happens over there.
How do you measure?
That's gonna be one of my
But in
questions.
How do you
terms
measure?
of,
How do you measure
like,
trust? I'll pull a lever here,
They,
and
they lack
I
good
won't see
metrics.
anything.
It's very easy to
for
measure
6 months.
so revenues and
It's
profits.
not that I don't know that
and
it
market
exists.
share.
So
Everybody
let's
talks about
focus
the
on
importance
those
of
things
culture.
because I can like
seems to
pull a lever
be
here and
focused
see
on
what
building
happens
it.
over there.
I've
never met a
But
CEO
in terms
in
of
my life
like trust,
who doesn't
I'll
think
pull a lever
people
here
are
and-
important.
I won't
And yet
see
every day
anything
they're making decisions
for
that
6 months.
prioritize a number over a person. It's not that I don't know that it
literally,
exists. Everybody talks
don't
about the
care about
importance of
people.
culture.
They
make decisions that literally be focused on building
people
it.
aside.
I've never met a CEO in my life who doesn't think
it's hard to
people are
measure.
important in an ultra speedy.
And yet every day they're
you know,
making decisions that
prioritize a number over a person world that we live in that literally don't care about people. They make decisions that literally gets done. Brush these things are measurable, just not in the short term.
Yeah, I was going to ask because when
it's
you
hard to
talk
measure.
about making
in an ultra
this a
speedy,
movement, which is really exciting to me. There's this crusader
algorithmic
out there
world that we live in.
Is incredibly effective at communicating this stuff and getting people excited about it. And actually,
these things are measurable, just not in the short term.
Yeah, I was going to ask because when you talk about making this a movement, which is really exciting,
show people how
metrics are fine.
Out there
the metrics are fine. They're just not in the short term, and they're just not fixed in time. So, for example,
and actually taking things from the ephemeral and making it very tangible.
Do you love your wife?
Do you think that's a question you're going to have to answer at some
Prove
point?
it.
Like to show people
what's
how
the
we
metrics are fine. The metrics are fine.
know.
They're just not in the short term.
Because when you met her, you didn't
fixed
love her.
in time.
What are they?
So, for example, now you love her, right? Do you
Tell
love
me
your
the
wife?
day
Right?
the love happened.
Prove
It's
it.
an impossible question.
Like, what's the
right?
metric?
Give me the number.
But it's not that it doesn't exist.
That helps
it's
me
that
know.
it's much easier to
Right?
prove.
Because when you met her, you didn't love her.
So,
Right?
all leadership
you
is the
love
same
her.
thing. It's about
Right?
transitions. So if you
Tell
were
me
to
the day
if you were to go to the gym,
the
right?
love
It's like
happened.
exercise.
It's
right?
an impossible question.
If you go to the gym,
right?
And
But it's not
you
that
work
it doesn't
out,
exist.
You come
It's that
back
it's
and you look
much
in the mirror.
easier
You will
to
see
prove
over time
nothing.
right? So if you go to the gym the next
all
day, and you come
leadership
back
is the
and you
same
look in
thing.
mirror,
It's
you will
about
see.
transitions.
So if you were to go to the gym, right? It's like exercise, right? If you go to the
clearly
gym
there's no results,
and
can't be
you
measured,
work out,
it
and you
must
come
not
back
be
and you look in the
effective.
mirror, you will see.
So we quit.
Nothing, right? And if you go to the gym the next day, and you
Or
come back
if
and you
you
look in the mirror,
fundamentally
you will
believe
see
that this is the right course of
nothing.
action and you stick with
Right?
it. Like in a relationship. I bought her flowers and I wish her
So
happy
clearly there's no
birthday.
results, can't be measured,
It must
and
not
she
be
doesn't love
effective.
me.
Clearly
So we
I'll
quit.
give up. You know?
Right?
That's not what happens. If you believe there's something
Or
there,
if you fundamentally
commit
believe
yourself
that
to
this
act
is the
in
right
active
course of
service.
action and you stick with
You commit yourself to the
Like in a
regime,
relationship.
the
I bought her
exercise.
flowers and I wished her
You
happy
can
birthday.
screw it up. You can eat chocolate cake one day. You
And
can
she
skip
doesn't love me.
skip a day or
Clearly
two.
I'll give up.
You know,
That's not what
it
happens.
allows
If
for
you-
that.
if you believe
but if
there's
you stick with
something
it
there,
consistently,
you
I'm
commit
not
yourself to
exactly
act in
sure
active
what
service.
day,
You
but
commit
I know
yourself
you'll
to the
start getting into
regime,
shape.
the exercise.
I know it. You can
And the
screw it up
same
with the
you can eat
relationship.
chocolate
It's
cake
not
one
about
day,
the
you can
events.
skip a
about
day or two.
intensity.
You know, it's about consistency.
It allows for that,
Right?
But if you
You
stick
go
with
to
it
the
consistently,
dentist
I'm
twice a
not
year,
exactly
your teeth
sure
will fall
what
out.
day you have to
But I
brush your
know
teeth
you'll start
every day
getting
for
into
2
shape.
minutes. What does
I know.
brushing your teeth twice a
And the
day for 2
same
minutes do?
with the relationship.
Nothing.
It's not about the events.
Unless
It's
you
not
do
about
it every day,
intensity.
twice a day.
It's about
for 2
consistency.
minutes.
Right?
It's the
You
consistency.
go to the dentist
Going to the
twice
gym
a
for
year,
9 hours
your teeth will
does
fall
not
out.
get you into shape.
You have to
Working
brush
out
your
every
teeth
day
every day
for
for
20
2
minutes.
What
Gets
does
you
brushing
into
your
shape.
teeth twice a day for 2 minutes do?
The problem is we
Nothing.
treat leadership with intensity.
Unless you do
we
it
have a
every
2-day
day.
offsite. We invite
Twice
a
a bunch
day
of
for
speakers.
2
We give
minutes.
everybody a certificate.
Right? It's the consistency.
You're a leader.
Going to the
Right?
gym for 9 hours does not get you into shape. Working
Those
out
things are
every
like
day
going
for
to the
20
dentist.
minutes
They're very
gets you
important.
into
They're
shape.
good for reminding
So
us
the
or
problem
getting
is
us
we
back
treat
on track,
leadership
learning
with
new
intensity.
lessons.
But it's
We
the
have a
daily
2-day offsite.
practice
We
of
invite
all
a
the
bunch of
monotonous,
speakers. We give
little
everybody a certificate.
boring things
You're a
like
leader.
brushing your teeth
Right?
that matter the most. She didn't fall in love
Those
with
things
you
are
because
like
you
going to the
remembered her
dentist. They're
birthday and
very
bought her flowers
important.
on
They're good for
Valentine's Day.
reminding
She
us
fell
or
in
getting
love
us
with you
back on track,
because you
learning
woke
new
up in the
lessons.
morning,
But
you
it's
said
the
good
daily
morning to her
practice of all the
before you checked your
monotonous
phone.
little boring
She fell in
things
love with
like
you because
brushing
when
your
you
teeth
went
to
that
the
mattered
fridge
the
to get
most.
yourself a drink.
She
You
didn't
got her
fall in
one
love with
without
you because you
even
remembered her
asking.
birthday and bought
She
her
fell in
flowers
love
on
with you because when
Valentine's
you had an
She
amazing
fell in love
day
with
at
you
work,
because when you
and
woke
she
up in the
came home
morning,
and she had a
you said
terrible
good
day at
morning to
work,
her before
you
you
didn't
checked your
say,
phone.
yeah, but let me tell you about my day.
She fell in love with you because
sat
when you
and
went
listened to her
to the
awful
fridge
day,
to get
and you
yourself a
didn't
drink,
say a
you got her
thing
one
about
without
your
her
amazing
even
day.
asking.
This is why
with
she
you
fell in
because
love
when
with you.
you had an
I can't
amazing
tell
day
you
at work,
exactly what
and she
day,
came home
and
and
it
she
was
had a
no
terrible day at
particular
work,
thing you did.
you didn't
It was
say,
the
yeah, but
accumulation
let me
of
tell you
all
about
of
my
those
day.
little things.
You sat and
that
listened to
she
her
woke up
awful
one day
days,
and
and you didn't
say
say
a
pressed a
thing
button
about
she
your
goes,
amazing day.
This is why she fell in love with you.
Leadership is
I can't
exactly
tell
the
you
same.
exactly
There's
what
no
day,
event,
and it was no particular
there's no thing I
you
can
did.
tell you you
It was
have
the
to do
accumulation of
that your
all of
people
those
will
little
trust you. It
things.
just doesn't work that way.
She woke up one day
It's
and
an
it's as if she
accumulation
pressed a button. She goes
of lots and
I
lots
love
of
it.
little things that anyone by
Leadership is
themselves
exactly
is
the same.
innocuous.
There's
and
no
useless.
event.
Literally, there's no thing I can
by
tell you.
themselves.
You
People
have
will look
to
at little
do
things
that your
that are
people
good
will
leadership
trust you. It
practices.
just doesn't work
that won't
way.
work, and you're absolutely
it's an
right.
accumulation.
But if you do it consistently,
of lots
and you do it in
and lots
combination
of
with lots of
little things
other
that
little
anyone
things,
by themselves is
like
innocuous.
saying
and
good
useless.
morning to someone,
Literally,
that looking them in
by
the eyes.
themselves.
People will look at little things friend George, good leadership practices, and say,
a
that
three-star
won't
general
work.
in the Marine
You're
Corps.
absolutely right.
He says
But if
his
you
test
do
for
it
leadership, and I
consistently,
love this. He goes,
and you do it
his
in
test for
combination
a
with
good
lots of
leader is
other
if you
little
ask
things.
somebody how their day is going,
Like
you
saying good
actually
morning
care
to
about
someone.
the answer.
That looking in the eye.
The number of times we're walking to
My
a
friend
meeting,
George,
we're rushing, we go, how are you? Not good.
who's a
I gotta
three-star
get you
general
later.
in
I
the
got a
Marine
late for a
Corps.
meeting. If you ask the question,
He says
you were
his test
standing
for
there and
leadership,
you were
and I love
listening
this.
to
He
the
goes,
answer. His test for
it's
a good
those
leader is if
little
you ask
innocuous
somebody how
things
their
that
day
you
is
do
going, you actually
over
care about the
and
answer.
over and over and over.
The number of times we're
that people
walking
will
to a
say,
meeting, we're rushing, we go, how are you? Not good. I
love
gotta get to you
my
later. I got I'm
job.
late for a meeting. If you ask
But
the
I like
question,
my
you were
job.
standing there and you were
I like
listening
my
to
job
the answer.
means,
Yeah, the challenge
it's
is great. They pay
those
me well. I
little
like the people.
innocuous things that you
I love
do
my job
over
means
and over.
I don't want to
and
work
over
anywhere
and
else.
over.
I don't care how much somebody
that
else
people will
is willing
say,
to pay me.
I love
I'm devoted to the
my
people
job.
here.
And I care desperately about the people here as if they were my family. I like my job means, yeah, the challenge is great. In business, well, I like the people. Colleagues and coworkers. I love my job means in the military, I don't want to work anywhere else. I don't care how much somebody else is willing to. That's how they think of each other. I'm devoted to the people here. If you really have a strong corporate culture here, as if they were my family, the people will think of each other. In business, we have colleagues and coworkers. It's like a family, right? In the military, they have brothers and sisters. Deep. That's how they think of each other. Fight. Right? But the love doesn't go away. If you really have a strong corporate culture, the love doesn't go away. The people will think of each other. And I'll fight with my sister, but if you threaten my sister, it's like a family, right? We'll fight internally, we'll bicker with each other, but nobody's going to hurt each other. And if anything from the outside shows up, the love doesn't go away. You're looking at a unified front. Bicker, the love doesn't go away. Now, how to fight with my sister? But if you threaten my sister, you're going to have to deal with me. Right? We'll fight internally, we'll bicker with each other, but nobody's going to hurt each other. And if anything from the outside shows up, you're looking at a unified front. Their children's success. Now, how to raise their children, teach them skills, discipline them when necessary, help them build their self-confidence so that they can go on and achieve something more than you could have ever imagined achieving for yourself. Executives who care about that's leadership, their children's success, absolute love and devotion care to raise their children, committed their lives, discipline them when necessary, help them build their self-confidence so that they can go on and achieve something more than you could have ever imagined achieving for yourself.
So simple and so
that's leadership and unbelievably hard work. The people who've committed their lives to this enterprise.
Here's why it is such a brilliant. You said it. It's hard to measure. It's so hard for me to show.
It's hard to measure in the short term. Unbelievably hard to measure in the long term. Over the long term, the traditional metrics will go up. All your revenues, profits, market share, the traditional metrics will go up, and more importantly, they'll go up more stably. It's hard to measure whether hard times better because the people will come together, they won't abandon. Over the long term, the traditional metrics will go up. Over the long term, all your revenues, profits, market share, the traditional metrics will go up, and more importantly, they'll go up more stably. You won't be going through employees. You will be able to weather hard times over the long term. Will come together. You'll find that loyalty is much higher. That people will turn down better paying jobs. Over the long term, the traditional metrics are just fine. All the traditional metrics, but also over the long term, your churn will go down. It's only the short term. Be going through employees.
I'm going to say though,
there's over the long term, between those two, you'll find that loyalty is much higher. That people will turn down better paying jobs. To use your analogy, over the long term, all the traditional metrics are just fine. If you had to go to the gym for 6 months before you saw any sign of change, no one would do it, right? I'm going to say though, there are so many variables in the middle. The number one thing is because with working out, so to use your analogy, right? So if you don't experience muscle fatigue, had to go to the gym for 6 months, that's immediate, right? I know that the next day. If you experience muscle fatigue, there are so many variables within a few weeks. The number one thing is probably not eating. The number one thing is to know. So there really are things that you can look at. If you don't experience muscle muscle, but you're not giving your body the nutrients that you need to actually build. Well, I know that. Well, that's still true. So I'm sitting here thinking, can it really be as simple as like I have a growing probably not eating that? So there really are things that you can look at because you're doing the damage to the muscle, but you're not giving your body the nutrients that you need to actually build. Well, that's still true. So I'm sitting here thinking, can it really be as simple as like I have a growing about what the answer is. That time spent together, right? I couldn't have a very effective relationship with my wife. The leader's job is to connect. And one of the things that I have personally struggled with is as the organization has grown, real asking somebody how their day is and actually waiting to hear the answer and caring about what the answer is. And so then you start focusing on, okay, wait, it's just about creating the environment, but as you lose time together with, and one of the things that I have personally struggled with is as the organization has grown,
I can see when they're having a bad day and really leveraging what we have as humans, and this is why your teachers are so
powerful. So then you start focusing on, okay, wait, it's just about creating the environment, but as you lose touch with
the human experience,
the real sense of like,
really connect. I know this person and I can see when they're having a bad day, and really leveraging like what we have as humans, and this is why your teachings are so powerful.
All of that stuff is super real, and as an organization, be able to find the truth of the human experience. I'm pretty sure this is working, and I really believe in it at a macro level. But I just want to know because there's so many paths, right? And you could nudge sort of one way or the other. All of that stuff is super real, and as an organization, to be able to find ways in that middle ground where it's like, I'm pretty sure this is working, and I really believe in it at a macro level. The amount of laughter I just want to know because there's so many paths, right? I'm really doing it, and I really think all day like how much laughter have I heard today? Create something that, and I feel like when and maybe it's everyone is making. Here's when I'm using this really taking an effort to connect with each other, to provide empathy and all that. There's a lowering of people's defenses. I'm really doing it, and I really think all day like how much laughter have I heard today? And I feel like so you hear this laughter bubble, everyone is making tense and stressful. I literally taking an effort to feel like you can have a decibel meter and all that. There's a lowering of people's defenses, and just a sort of natural outpouring of that is
joking around. And so you hear this laughter bubble, and when things get really tense and stressful, I literally feel like you could have a decibel meter and just feel it coming down.
Despite what it may taste like. Look, it's a human thing. So just as you know how your body feels after they feel really good, and how your body feels after. So it's a big greasy meal. We're highly trained social animals. We're highly adapted social animals. One is not. We can feel social awkwardness, and we can feel things are going well.
And that's the problem with short-term gains.
You say you have really good sense of laughter. So we're highly trained social animals. We're highly adapted social animals.
We're made to do this.
That's why we can assess if somebody's trustworthy or not. That's why we keep our walls and we're like, you can sense it. You say, yeah, his results are great, but I wouldn't trust him. Right? We're not. As opposed to letting down your blood. I trust blinders with anything. Like I said, we're made to do this. That's why we can assess if somebody's trustworthy or not. So we're highly attuned animals. Our walls and we're good at sensing it. But his results are great, but I wouldn't trust him. Right? As opposed to letting down your blood pressure. Laughter, which is anything, a decent one. My kids don't anything, is that scale breaks. So we're highly attuned animals. So we're not good at sensing it. But I will say there is a caveat to your called Dunbar's number metric of laughter, which is a decent one. Theorized that we cannot maintain more than a scale breaks about 150 close relationships in human beings. As I said before, we're not made for population. If you're at a bar with a bunch of friends and somebody comes in, Dunbar's number, ask that person to join you. Robin Dunbar, professor from Cambridge University, theorized that we cannot maintain more than 100 about. And if you think about the reason, that actually makes perfect sense. And the way he defined a close relationship is one is time. If you only gave bar with a bunch of friends and somebody comes in, would you ask that person to join? And the other one is memory. And you just can't remember everybody. It's about 150. And so this is where leadership becomes very, very interesting. And if you think about the reason, you have a company that has a lot of, because there's two limiting factors. One is time. 800. If you only gave 2 minutes to every person you know, you can make no close friends. Clearly, and the other one is memory. And clearly, as a CEO, like I care about every single one of my people. So this is where leadership knows some of the people you work for are real, because if you have a company that has, you don't care about a lot of people, right? 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's a nonsense statement, right? But what you can say is, I desperately care about the people whose names I care about every single one of my people. You don't even know. Some of the people you work for are desperately about my leadership. You don't care about. I instill every day that I would give them. So it's a nonsense statement. Care of them with one purpose and one purpose only. But what you can say is, I desperately care about the people whose names I know. And I want those people to take care of the people. And I care desperately about my leadership and I instill in them every day. And then by the time you get down, give them the tools to the masses. I will take care of them with one purpose. The actual 1,000 exist. They will take care of the people in their charge. Right? Where the real 1,000 exist, take care of they feel and instill in about 150 of their charge. Can look to one of and then by the time you get down direct leaders, to the masses, direct managers, and say where the actual 1,000 exist, because of the seniors it's like 20. That's our boss. That's where the real 1,000 exist. They feel about 150 of them can look to one of their direct leaders, one of their direct managers, and say that. By the way, I hate the word boss and manager. Cares about me. Nobody wakes up in the morning to be our boss. Nobody wants to be boss. That's my leader, not the leader. Right? It's this. But we do want to be led. My boss. I do want to be wake up. By the way, I wake up in the morning and I want to be led. Nobody wakes up in the morning to be managed. Nobody wants to be managed. Lead me. Manage me. You have the courage, right? You can lead me. I will follow. So, but we do want to be led. You actually still I do want to be wake up in the morning and I want Dunbar's number. Lead me. But now they're done. Absolutely. And that's what effective hierarchy looks like, right? Where every level feels supported by the level above to take care of the level below. So when scale shows up, you actually still maintain above and the level below is the rules of Dunbar's number. The vendor that you but now they're done. You own that relationship. And that's what effective hierarchy. In other words, we're all responsible for taking care of every level feels supported by the level above to take care of the level below.
Yeah, you've talked.
And if you're at the front line, you feel supported by the level above and the level below is the
like an alcoholic, if you don't master the step of helping somebody else.
In other words, we're all responsible for taking care of another
relationship. Beat it yourself. The parallel between being you've talked leader super powerfully about you taking ownership for helping like an alcoholic, if you don't master the step of helping
the example you're using there is the 12-step program. We all joke about the first step, admitting you have a problem.
The parallel between
but it's the 12th step.
A leader requires the same thing. You taking ownership for helping somebody else.
If an alcoholic masters all 11 steps and not the 12, it's highly likely. The example you're using there is the 12-step program. We all joke about the first step, admitting you have a problem. Commitment to help another but it's the 12th step. It's service. And this really is the most powerful thing in the world. If an alcoholic masters all 11 steps and not the 12th, there's an entire section in the bookshop called If they master the 12th step, there's no section in the bookshop called Help Others. The 12th step is the commitment to help another alcoholic. And it's not about how can I lose 7 pounds? How can I find a job the most powerful thing in the world? How can I find it's not about the love of my life? You know, there's an entire section in the book. It's not how can I lose 10 pounds. It's how can I help somebody I care about live a healthy lifestyle. Right? It's not how can I find a job that I love. It's how can I help somebody I care about find a lifetime of joy in the love of my life. It's not how can I find true love. It's how can I help my friends. How can I help somebody I care about live a healthy lifestyle. And ironically, it's not how can I find a job that I love. It's how can I help somebody I care about find a lifetime of joy. That in turn is what teaches us. It's not how can I find true love. It's how can I help my friends.
That's incredible. And the thing that really
and ironically, we set out to help people solve the problems that we struggle with ourselves.
The human desire for connection is so strong, and we sort of check that at the door.
That's incredible.
Into
and
an office
the thing
that so much really is
to the office
that this is so important. You've said that is loving your job. The human desire for connection is so strong, and we sort of check that at the door.
I believe that. I
when
believe
you come
loving your
into
work
an
is
office
a right
and
and
you're
not a
giving
privilege.
so much of your time to the office that you've said that
so few people
loving your job is a right.
It's
not nice to have.
You go out with your friends and somebody says, "I love my job." I believe that. I believe loving your work is a right and not a privilege. I despise that. I lament that to me is mad. Curse the fact. Everybody, so few people get to say, the vast majority should get to wake up and say, I love my job. You go out with your friends and somebody says, I love my job. And everybody goes, oh my God, you're so lucky. We should love where we work. And we should demand it. We should demand that our leaders provide an environment in which we want everybody, where we want to care about the vast majority, where we feel safe to express our vulnerabilities and our fears and our God-given that we're open to correction and discipline and feedback. We should demand it. That we're not defensive. That our leaders provide an environment to help us improve and grow, where we want to improve about each other, where we feel safe to express our vulnerabilities and our fears and our concerns. That we're open to correction and discipline and feedback. That our leaders, that we're not defensive, care more about because we know that it's being given to help us improve and grow. And we want to improve about our lives. And in turn, we will help others improve and confidence. Because when we feel safe, when we feel set, more that our leaders short-term gain care more about our priorities than the priorities of some disinterested external constituency. They care more about our lives. Then we will respond in kind, and we will offer our blood and our sweat and our tears, and we will make sacrifices of all kinds more to see some short-term our leaders' vision. That they care more about our priorities than the priorities of some disinterested external constituency. It becomes deeply personal. And we will respond in kind, and we will offer our blood and our sweat and our tears. I talk about it all the time. Sacrifices of working hard for something we don't care about. Our leaders' vision is advanced, and that this company working hard for something we love, not for them, for ourselves. And I'm tired of listening to CEOs saying, we only hire passionate people. You don't even know what that means. I talk about it all the time. How do you know that they're passionate for interviewing and not passionate for working? Care about. Every person on the planet has passion. Hard for something we love. We just don't all have passion for the same things. Give me something to believe in. CEOs saying, we only hire passionate people. Believe in. Give me the opportunity to contribute to something. How do you know that they're passionate for interviewing and not passionate for working? Make mistakes and try again. Every person on the planet has passion up the wazoo, right? We just don't all have passion for the same things. Give me something to believe in. Noah only has passion in one of his jobs. Give me something to stress in the other one. Give me the opportunity to contribute to something. Allow me to make mistakes and try again.
Yeah, that rings so true with what I know about human nature. The first time I heard you talk about this,
Noah only has passion in one of his jobs.
Things that whenever something lines up with what I know to be true about the way that the human mind works, it's like, okay, now I know that I'm really on so true with what I know about human nature. The first time I heard you talk about this, that it's just one of those things that whenever something lines up with what I know to be true about the way that the human mind works, I had never heard prior to you that I'm really onto something. And when you have told stories evolved was a theory that was laid out only 30, 40 years ago max. Trust goes both ways, and when people I can really feel a change that's happening in the world. I had never heard prior to you that to be involved in a rapidly the business has evolved that has a theory that was laid out only 30, 40 years ago max in the company because the demand that you're saying a change that's happening in the world now. There's something in the youth today that allows them to cry for humanity, and I don't know if they yet know the words portion of young people that you're in the company because the demand that you're saying that people need to be made. There's something in the youth today that allows them to cry for their humanity, and I don't know if they yet know the words.
Millennials as a generation, which is a group of people who were born approximately
your head in a way. I want to hear what you're thinking.
1984. I have yet to give a speech or have a meeting where somebody doesn't ask me the millennial tough question. To manage. And
what's
they're
the
accused of being
question?
entitled. Apparently, millennials as a generation, which is a group of people who were born approximately unfocused, 1984 and lazy. After. But entitled is the big one. Are tough to manage. And because they confound leadership so much, what's happening is leaders are asking the millennials, what do you want? Unfocused. And millennials are saying, we want to work in a place with purpose. But entitled is the big one. We want to make an impact. And because they confound leadership so much, what's happening is leaders are asking the millennials, what do you want? And so somebody articulates some sort of purpose, there's lots of free food, and there's beanbags, and yet for some reason, they're still not happy. And that's because we want free food and beanbags. There's a missing piece. Somebody articulates some sort of purpose, there's lots of free food, and there's beanbags, and yet for some reason, four characteristics. They're still not happy. One is parenting, because the other one is technology, the third is impatience, and the fourth is there's a missing piece. The generation, what I've learned, too many of them, I can break it down into four pieces, right? There are four characteristics. Not my words. One is parenting, the other one failed parenting strategies. Technology, the third is impatience, and the fourth is environment. For example, the generation they were special, they call the millennials, all the time. Too many of them, they were told that they could have anything they want in life, just because they want it. Subject to, not my words. They were told failed parenting strategies. Some of them got into honors classes, not because they deserved it, but because their parents complained. They were told that they were special. And some of them got A's, not because they earned them. They were told that they could have anything they wanted with the parents. Some kids got participation medals. They were told. Right? Some of them got into the science honors classes, not clear, which is it devalues the medal and the reward. Some of them got A's, not because they earned them, and it actually makes the person who comes in last feel embarrassed. Some kids got because they know they didn't deserve it, so it actually makes them feel worse. You got a medal for coming in last. So you take this group, which people, the science we know is they get a job, which is it devalues, and they're thrust into the real world, and in an instant they find out they're not special. Their moms can't get them a promotion. Because they know that you get nothing for coming in last. And by the way, you can't just have it. You take this group of people, and in an instant, their entire self-image is shattered, and they're thrust into an entire generation world. And in an instant, they find out they're not special. Their moms can't get them a promotion. To compound it is growing up that you get nothing for coming in world. And by the way, you can't just have it because you want it. We're good at showing people that life is amazing, even though I'm depressed. So you have an entire generation that's growing up with lower self-esteem. And so everybody sounds tough. Everybody sounds like they got it all figured out. And the reality is there's very little Instagram world. In other words, we're good at putting filters on. And so when the more senior people say, showing people what should we do, they sound like this is what you got to do. I'm depressed. Right? And they have no clue. And so everybody sounds tough. And everybody sounds like they got it all figured out. And the reality is, so you have an entire generation growing up with lower self-esteem than previous generations. And so when the more senior people say, through no fault of their own, they sound like this is what you got to do. Right? They were dealt a bad hand. And they have no clue. Right? Now let's add in technology. We know. So you have an entire generation growing up with lower self-esteem than previous generations. And our cell phones. Releases no fault of their own dopamine. Through no fault of their own. That's why when you get a text, they were dealt a bad hand, right? So we've all had it. Now let's add in technology. Lonely. We know send out 10 texts to 10 friends. Engagement with social media and our cell phones, because it feels good when you get a response called dopamine, right? That's why when you get a text, right? It's why we count the likes. It's why we've all had it 10 times to see if it's going. So you send out 10 texts. My Instagram is going slower. Hi. Did I do something wrong? They don't like me anymore, right? Because it feels good when you get a response. For young kids to be unfriended. Right? It's why we count because the likes. Because we know when you get it, you get to hit a dopamine, which feels good. To see if why we like it, it's why we keep going back. And my Instagram is growing slower. Dopamine is the exact same chemical. Did I do something wrong? That makes us feel good when we smoke, when we drink. The trauma for young kids to be unfriended. In other words, it's highly because we know when you get it, you get to hit a dopamine, which feels good. It's why we like it. It's why we keep going back. We have age restrictions on smoking. Dopamine is the exact same chemical that makes us feel good alcohol, when we smoke, when we drink, no age restrictions, and when we gamble. Social media and cell phones. In other words, which is the equivalent of opening up the liquor cabinet and saying to our teenagers, hey, by the way, this adolescence thing that gets you down, restrictions on smoking, gambling, but that's basically what's happening. That's basically what's happening, right? That's basically what happened. You have an entire generation that has access to an addictive liquor cabinet and saying to our teenagers, hey, by the way, this adolescence thing that gets you down as they're going through the high stress of adolescence. But that's basically what's happening. Almost that's basically what's happening, right? That's basically what's happening. You have an entire generation that has access to when we're very, very young. The only approval we need is the approval of chemical called dopamine through social media. As we go through adolescence, they're going through the high transition where we now need the approval of our peers. Almost very frustrating for our parents. Discovered alcohol that allows us to acculturate outside. When we're very, very young, the only approval we need is the approval of our parents. It's a highly, and as we go through adolescence, we make this transition where we now need the approval of our to rely on our friends. Very frustrating for our parents. Some people, quite by accident, that allows us to acculturate outside of our immediate families into the broader tribe. The stresses and anxieties. It's a highly, highly stressful and anxious period of our lives, and that becomes hardwired in their brains and to rely on our friends when they suffer significant stress. Some people, quite by accident, discover alcohol and the numbing effects of dopamine, social stress, financial stress, career stress. The stresses and anxieties, the primary reasons why an alcoholic drinks. Unfortunately, that becomes hardwired in their brains, and for the rest of their lives, access when they suffer significant dopamine-producing devices and media, basically it's becoming hardwired. And what we're seeing is as they grow older, that's pretty much too many kids don't know how to form deep, meaningful relationships. What's happening is because we're allowing unfettered access to that many of their friendships are superficial. And they will admit that basically their friends that they don't, and what we're seeing is as they grow older, they don't rely on their friends. They have fun with their friends. Too many kids. But they also know that their friends will cancel a relationship. Something better comes along. Their words, not mine. They will admit that because many of their friendships are superficial, and worse, admit they don't have the coping mechanisms that they don't with stress. So when significant stress starts to show up in their lives, they're not. But they also know that their friends will cancel on them when something better comes along. They're turning to social media. Relationships are not there because they never practice temporary relief. And worse, they don't have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress. Spend more time on Facebook, significant stress starts to show up in their lives. They're not turning to a person. These things balance. Alcohol is not bad. Too much alcohol is bad. Gambling is fun. Too much gambling is dangerous. We know the science is clear. There's nothing wrong with social media and cell phones. People spend more time on Facebook suffer higher rates of depression than people. If you're sitting at dinner with your friends, these things and you're texting somebody who's not there. Alcohol is not bad. Too much alcohol is bad. Gambling is fun. Too much gambling is dangerous. If you're sitting in a meeting, there's nothing wrong with people you're supposed to be listening to and speaking, and you put your phone on the table. If you're sitting at dinner with your friends, face up or face down, I don't care, and you're texting somebody that sends a subconscious message to the room that you're just that's a problem. That's an addiction, right? If you're sitting in a meeting and the fact that you cannot put it away is because speaking, and you put your phone on the table. If you wake up and you check your phone before you say face down, I don't care. Boyfriend or spouse that sends a subconscious message to the room, and like all addiction, in time it'll destroy relationships. That's what happens. And the fact that you cannot put it away is because you are addicted. Right? If you wake up and you check your phone before you say good morning to your girlfriend, boyfriend, or spouse, you have an addiction. And like all addiction, in time it'll destroy relationships. They've grown up in a world of instant gratification. It costs money. And want to buy something, you go on Amazon, it arrives the next day. Right? You want to watch a movie? So you have a generation growing up with lower self-esteem. You want to watch a TV show? Binge. You don't even have to wait week to week. Now you add in the sense of impatience. I know people who skip seasons just so they can binge at the end of the season. You want to buy something? You go on Amazon, it arrives the next day. You want to watch a movie? Log on and watch a movie. Instant gratification. You want to go on a date? You want to watch a TV show? You don't even have to learn. You don't even have to be like, wait, right? I know people who skip seasons just so they can binge. You don't even have to learn and practice that skill. You don't have to be the uncomfortable one who says yes when you mean no and says no when you mean no, but yes when you. You don't even have to learn. Bang! I'm a stud. Right? You don't have to learn. You don't even have to learn and practice that skill. You don't have to be the uncomfortable one who says yes when you mean no and says no when you mean no, but yes when you instant gratification. Swipe right. Bang! I'm a stud. Job satisfaction, right? Strength of relationship. You don't have to learn. There ain't no app for that. The social coping mechanisms. Slow, right? Meandering. Everything you want, you can have instantaneous processes. Everything you want. Instant gratification. Fantastic, idealistic, hardworking, job satisfaction. They've just graduated. Strength of relationship. They're in their entry-level job. I sit down with them and I go, "How's it going?" They go, "Meandering." Uncomfortable, messy processes. They're like, and so I keep meeting these wonderful, fantastic, idealistic, hardworking, smart kids who just graduated school. It's as if they're standing at the foot of a mountain. I sit down and they have this abstract concept called impact that they want to have in the world. I'm like, why? Which is the summit. They're like, what they don't see is the mountain impact. I'm like, I don't care if you go up the mountain quickly or slowly, but there's still a mountain. And so it's as if they're standing at the foot of a mountain, and they have this abstract concept called impact that they want to have in the world, which is the summit. What they don't see is the mountain. Or job fulfillment. I don't care if you go up the mountain quickly or slowly, but there's still a life, self-confidence. And so what this young generation needs to learn is patience. All of these things take time. Some things that really sometimes you can expedite pieces of it. But the overall journey, job fulfillment, is arduous and long. Love of life, difficult, confidence. And if you don't ask for help and learn that skill set, you will all of these things take time. Or you will. The worst case scenario. Sometimes you can. The worst case scenario. Pieces of it. And we're already seeing the overall. The worst case scenario is we're seeing an increase in suicide rates. Arduous and long. We're seeing an increase in this generation. We're seeing an increase in accidental deaths due to drug overdoses. You will. We're seeing more and more kids drop out of school or take leaves of absence due to the worst case scenario. And we're already seeing unheard of. The worst case scenario is we're seeing an increase in suicide rates. Really bad. We're seeing an increase in incineration. We're seeing an increase in accidental deaths due to drug overdoses. We're seeing more and more kids drop out of school or take leaves of absence due to growing up and going through life and just never really unheard of finding joy. This is really bad. The best case scenario in work or the best. Those are all bad cases, right? The best case scenario is you'll have an entire population how's your job and going through life and just never really finding joy. How's your relationship? You'll never really find deep. Like that's the best case scenario in work or in life. Which leads me to the fourth point, which is environment. Waft through life, which is we're taking this amazing group of young, fantastic kids who just dealt a bad hand. It's no fault of their own. How's your relationship? It's fine. And we put them in corporate environments. That's the best care more about the numbers, which leads me to than they do about the kids, which is environment. They care more about the short-term gains, amazing long-term of young, fantastic kids who just dealt a bad hand. We care more about the year than the life in corporate environments that care more about we are putting them in corporate environments that aren't helping them. They care more about the short-term gains that aren't helping them learn the skills of cooperation, that aren't helping them overcome the challenges of a digital world and finding more balance. Right? That isn't helping them. Putting them in corporate environments that aren't helping them build their need to have instant gratification, that aren't helping them learn the skills, joys, and impact, that aren't helping them overcome the challenges of a digital world and finding more balance in a month or even isn't helping them. And so we're thrusting them in corporate environments, and the worst part about it is they teach them the joys and impact and the fulfillment. They think it's them who can't deal. And so it makes it all worse. It's not. I'm here to tell them it's not in a month or even in a year. It's the corporations. It's the corporate environments. So we're thrusting to them in corporate environments, and the worst part about it is they think it's them. In our world today, that is making them feel the way they do. They think it's them who can't deal. They were dealt a bad hand. Worse. And I hate to say it, but it's the company's responsibility. It's the sucks to be you. Like we have no choice. It's the total lack. This is what we got. I wish that society and our parents did a better job making them feel the way they do. So we're getting them in our companies. They were dealt a bad hand, and we now have to pick up the slack. I hate to say it, but it's the company's responsibility to figure out the ways that we have no choice. Build their companies. We have to work extra hard. This is what we got, and I wish that society and their parents did a better job. They did. Social skills. We're getting them in our companies. There should be no cell phones in company slack. We have to work extra hard to figure out the ways kind of like sitting outside waiting to text. We have to work extra hard. When you're sitting and waiting for a meeting to start, nobody go. This is what we all do. We all sit here and wait for the meeting that they're missing out on. Meeting starting? Okay. There should be no cell phones in conference rooms. That's not how relationships are formed. Zero. Remember we talked about it. And I don't mean the kind of like sitting outside waiting to text. We're waiting for a meeting to start. When you're sitting and waiting for a meeting to start, nobody go, this is what we all do. We all sit here and wait for the meeting to start. Meeting starting? Okay. We start the meeting. No, that's not how relationships are formed. Remember we talked about it's the little things? Relationships are formed this way. We're waiting for a meeting to start and we go, oh my God, no, I didn't. How's your dad? I heard he was in the hospital. Can I help you out? Oh, he's really good. Really? Thanks for asking. That's how trust forms. Oh, I'm really glad. Trust doesn't form at an event in a day. Even bad times don't form trust immediately. It's the slow, did you ever get that report? Steady, oh my God, no, I didn't. I'll help you out. And we have to create mechanisms where we allow how trust those little innocuous interactions at an event in a day. But when we allow cell phones and conference rooms, bad times don't form trust immediately. Okay, it's the slow, and then my favorite is like when there's a cell phone there, and you go like this, you go. And we have to create mechanisms where we allow for those little innocuous interactions to happen. But when we allow cell phones and conference rooms, we just, Mr. Magnanimous, you know, have the meeting. And then my favorite is like when there's a cell phone there, and you go like this, you go. When you're out for dinner with your friends, like, I do this with my friends. When we're going out for dinner and we're leaving together, I'm not going to answer that. We'll leave our cell phones at home. Mr. Magnanimous. Maybe one of us will bring the phone in case we need to call an Uber or take a picture of our meeting. When you're out for dinner with your friends, like, I do this with my friends. When we're going out for dinner and we're leaving together, I'm an idealist. We'll leave our cell phones at home. Maybe one of us will bring the phone in case we need to or take a picture. We'll take one phone. And so it's like the reason we take the alcohol out of the house is because we cannot trust our willpower. I'm an idealist, but I'm not insane. But when you remove a heathen, I mean, it looked really good. It makes it a lot easier. And so when you just say don't check your phone, people literally will go like this. It's like somebody will go to the bathroom, and what's the first thing we do? Because I wouldn't want to look around the restaurant for a minute and a half, you know? But if you don't have the phone, it actually makes it a lot easier. Kind of enjoy. And so when you just say don't check your phone, people and that's where ideas happen. And somebody will go to the bathroom, and what's the first thing we do? Because I wouldn't want to look around the restaurant for a minute and a half, you know. But if you don't have the phone, they could do that. You just kind of enjoy. Right, but we're taking away all those. And that's where ideas happen, right? You should constant none of us should charge our phones by our beds. We should be charging our phones when our minds wander and we go, right? You see remove the temptation. You wake up in the middle of the night because you can't sleep. You won't check your phone. Which makes it worse. But we're taking away all those little. But if it's in the living room, right? You should not. It's relaxed. And none of us should charge our phones by our beds. It's my alarm clock. We should be charging our phones in the living room. Buy an alarm clock. Right? Remove the temptation. You wake up in the middle of the night because you can't sleep. You won't check your phone. I'll buy you an alarm clock. But if it's in the living room. But the point is we now in industry. Whether we like it or not, we don't get a choice. Buy an alarm clock. We now have a responsibility. They cost $8 short, right? And to help this amazing, idealistic, fantastic generation. right? But the point is we now in industry, skills, whether we like it or not, we don't get a choice between life and technology. We now have a responsibility because, to quite frankly, it's the right thing to help this amazing, idealistic, fantastic. My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Learn patience. Learn the social skills.
Incredible.
Find a better balance between life and technology.
Where can they find you?
Because, quite frankly,
it's ironic, isn't
the
it?
right thing to do. Well, you can find me on social media. My pleasure. My pleasure.
When you're
Thanks
not
for having
in a
me.
meeting.
So yeah, I'm in all the usual places. But I will tell you one thing. So I have a new book coming out in
it's ironic,
September.
isn't it?
Well, you can find it on social media. But what's
when you're not in a meeting.
What's special about it is yeah, I'm in all the usual places. But I will tell you one thing. So I have a new book coming out in September, and so. It's an thinly veiled plug, but what's special about it is that I wanted to produce something. I didn't want the illustrations done on a computer; they were done by hand. There's a song, format Aloe Black, the singer, the Grammy-nominated singer. And so the book is called Illustrated Better, and it gave me a song that goes with it. And the music is in the back of the book, and it's actually the illustrations done on a computer; they were done by hand. Actually, his hand. There's a song, Aloe Black, and here's the best part: the Grammy-nominated singer. The book is called Together is Better. We scented it with a custom song that goes with it, and it's made by the music in the back of the book, 1229, and it's actually designed for me to send his handwriting. Actually, his handwriting. And so you smell the pages, and they smell like optimism. Is scented. We scented it with a custom scent. And the thing that I love about this, made by this amazing company called 1229, and they designed for me the scent of optimism. I wanted to create something that you had to physically. So you smell the pages, and it's designed to smell like optimism. The first page says to. From. And the thing that I love about it, I wanted it to be given as a gift to someone you want to say thank you for inspiring you, or to give to someone. I wanted to create something that you had to physically engage with. It was designed, and it's designed to be given as a gift. The first page says to physical interaction from and engaging with the real world. Because I wanted it to be given as a gift to someone you want to say thank you for inspiring you.
Super unique.
Or to give to someone
it does smashingly well as your other books have.
It was designed
so
to
much
promote
people, and it's just really been incredible.
Physical interaction.
What you shared with us today, man, honestly.
Thank you. So I'm really proud of it.
Absolutely wonderful.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So much.
Really, thank you for having me.
I should have done the entire interview at his feet, which is exactly how it felt.
Truly, thank you.
He has an amazing career. I'm going to paraphrase, but leaders are runners, and the people who start I should have done the entire interview at his feet, which is exactly how it felt. He has an amazing Twitter quote, which I'm going to paraphrase, but leaders are learners, and the people who stop pretending like they know everything and really open themselves up to learning something new, to changing everything, to build something that is better, knowing why you're doing what you're doing is so critical, and just the human way in which he approaches the world and the connection, and hearing that today in front of this audience, to changing everything, rapt attention, and talking about putting the cell phones aside, knowing why and really remembering to connect. I think that is human way in which he approaches the world and the connection, and hearing that today in front of this audience.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Talking about putting the cell phones aside.
To the Inside Quest community, thank you guys for becoming so special that we're able to get guests like Simon. The first thing he said to me today was, hey, we finally made this happen, not for a long time. So, in your name, to the Inside Quest community, thank you guys for becoming so special that we're able to get guests like Simon. Next week, my friend said to me today was, hey, we finally made this happen, not for a want of trying. So,